this past week I was in New York City, and so I've been traveling a lot. And if you're friends with me on Facebook or Twitter, you already know this, but I hate flying. I absolutely loathe flying. Every time I fly, I leave all of my theology on the jetway as I enter into that metal encasing of impending doom. I hate flying. I know that I'm going to die every time I step on a plane. And in the past 4 weeks, I've had 6 flights, 2 of which were over 13 hours each. One was on September 11th, but then this last one, this past Sunday, the 6th flight, oh man, it was awful. So we're on the runway, and the engines are starting to roar, and your feet are starting to rumble underneath you, and I'm in my very focused do not vomit because of anxiety mode, when all of a sudden the captain comes over the speaker and says, due to a maintenance issue, we're going back to the terminal to fix it. Now, a rational person would think, oh, I'm so glad they caught that maintenance issue before the plane took off. Not me. I thought, I wonder what maintenance issues this death machine has that they haven't caught yet. And so my nerves were just a mess. I had to sit there for an hour thinking about all the ways in which I was going to die on this plane. And so I did what I always do when I take off. I ask Jesus into my heart, and then I think about the last thing I tweeted. And so I thought, well, this time I probably really will die. Like, this isn't just being, crazy. This is like, I'm going to die. And so I thought, well, I'm going to tweet to all my friends to trust Jesus. I'm going to tell them that unlike what they may have heard from people, it really is all about grace. Because you see, I really thought I was going to die. And I wanted my friends to know Jesus. And I wanted my friends to know that there is a grace to cover all of the things they've done wrong. No matter who they've hurt, no matter how much shame they have felt, there's a grace that covers it all in Jesus. Well, today we're going to start a new series called Strength of a Spark. In it, we're going to be looking at the Apostle Paul's last tweet, 2 Timothy. It's the last thing that he wanted us to know. It's the last thing he wanted to say. And as he writes this final letter, he's in circumstances that are way worse than me being in a plane. He's in a prison, and it's not like prison that he had been in before. Before he had been in prison, it was more like house arrest. This time he's in a prison that's a dark, dismal dungeon. It's underground. He only has a small hole in the ceiling for light and air. Most of his friends have abandoned him. He's alone, and he knows that when he gets out of prison, he's going to die. He's going to be beheaded. So can you imagine what it must have felt like for Paul to write this last letter? I'm astounded by Paul. Because when I start experiencing some kind of suffering or hardship, I immediately start thinking inward. But Paul, as we will see, begins thinking outwardly. He's thinking about Jesus. He's thinking about Timothy, the young preacher that he's mentoring, that he's writing to. And he's thinking about us. As Paul was writing his last words, he was thinking of you and me. He wanted us to know the gospel of grace. He wanted us to know Jesus like he knew Jesus. So he wrote this letter to Timothy, trusting in the strength of a spark, trusting that the spark of the gospel would be ignited in this young pastor Timothy so that one day you and I would hear about it.